In this section, we're going to talk about creating a two-dimensional list using the conditional statements that we learned so far in Module 3. Primarily, we'll be using for loops. All right, so let's think about it. How would we create a 2D list? What would we put in a 2D list? Well, first and foremost, we're going to create a 2D list that is any dimension that the user wants, and we're going to fill it with any information. For now, we're going to fill this with nothing but zeros, but it'll still be in a matrix format, so we can access it. And then what we want to do is we want to access a particular variable or any variable within that matrix, and we want to change the data, and then we want to show that we changed the data. All right, so that's what we're going to do in this section. Okay, so now we have PyCharm up. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do this. So right off bat, we're going to create a variable x, and that will be our rows, right? And then we'll say, we'll go ahead and off bat convert that user input into an integer. So we'll ask the user, enter how many rows you want. And then we'll ask the user again, enter how many columns you want. So right off bat, we're converting x and y into integers, right? So we don't have to mess with, convert it later on in the script or in the code. And we're going to make a two-dimensional list named A. And we're going to write it out by saying 0. We're going to put 0 in each of the cells, right? To just baseline the matrix, but we'll create the matrix, but all the memory is going to be zeroed out, just like in the beginning presentation at the beginning of the video. So 0 for x in range y, right? And then we're going to say for x in range x. So that's going to set up a two-dimensional list that's zeroed out completely, and it'll make a list that has nothing but zeros in whatever dimensions that the user wants to specify. So this creates the columns all zeroed out, and this creates the x-axis or the rows all zeroed out. I'm sorry, I had that backwards, but so let's go ahead and say we want to print out the list A, and we want to just look at it before we want to modify that two-dimensional list that we've created. And so we're going to say x. We'll go ahead and ask the user, we'll ask him or her, enter the x coordinate you want to modify. All right. And then we'll also ask, basically the same thing, but then we want to ask what the y coordinate is. Now we want to set a new variable m, and we also want the user's input on this, because this will end up being, whatever the user wants to input into that variable. Well, here we're asking what x coordinate do we want the user to modify, and then we want to enter what y coordinate the user wants to modify. And then here, the variable m is the number, the integer that you want the user to input, or whatever they want to input into that memory space. Or you can think of it as a memory space or a cell or what have you. So then we'll access that memory space by simply calling up that whatever x and y is, and then setting that equal to m. And then we'll go ahead and ask, we'll go ahead and print out the two-dimensional list using for loops for the user to inspect after we modified uh, this particular memory space. So we do that by saying for x in range length a, for y in range length a x, print a x, and then y. All right, so now let's take a look how exactly this code runs. Let's see what happens. So it's asking us how many rows we want to enter. Let's say we want to enter, make a 3 by 3 matrix, just like in the example. And then it prints out our 3 by 3 list. Enter the coordinates we want to modify. So we'll enter in 1, and say we want to modify coordinates 1 and 1. And we want to put in the number, say, 8. Prints out our 2D list sequentially and puts in the 1 by 1 position the number 8. So now we've gone over how to create a two-dimensional list using for loops and how to modify that two-dimensional list, and then print out that two-dimensional list again using for loops at the end here. And this is a pretty, good just thought experiment and trying out what we've learned so far. There are many practical applications for what we've done already. If you can think about it, it's basically a spreadsheet of information. This information does not have to be integers. It could be anything from strings to even more lists. You can make your head hurt, make a 3D or a 4D list, and you can use this in a variety of different fashions. So that's it for today, in this section at least. Hope you thought this was valuable.